Now arriving at Newport. Change here for Williamstown services.
So that's 11 1. That's the way we started. Fine, sorry.
Newport Station. Newport is one of the most important stations in the West. It opened on the 1st of March in 1859 as the Melbourne terminus of the Geelong line. Prior to the opening of the current day station, there was a temporary station constructed on the banks of the Yarra River, with passengers making the connection to the rest of the city on a paddle steamer. The new station was called Geelong Junction because it was connected to the Williamstown line. 10 years later, someone actually considered the Williamstown line above the Geelong line, so the name was tweaked to Williamstown Junction. The change made approximately 3 people happy, but another 12 years later in 1881, the station was renamed the second and final time to Newport after the suburb of Newport. Junction stations like Newport were very common and also important. Some former stations that were junctions were Royal Park, Fairfield, Elstonwick and Somerton. There were several more because the inner city rail network was far stronger than it is now, except for the frequency, the price, the infrastructure, and most of the network being unelectrified. Newport became the junction station for more than just the Geelong and Williamstown lines when the Altona line opened in 1888 and then closed in 1890 after the private operator gave up on the line and tried to hand the line over to the government, who rejected it. The line eventually reopened to passengers in 1917 in the hands of the government, making Newport a four-way junction again. The fourth line existed the whole time and it went to Williamstown Racecourse, which was the second racecourse rail link in Melbourne behind the Flemington Racecourse line. The Williamstown Racecourse line went under in 1950. It definitely helped the Flemington Racecourse line stay afloat because the Flemington Racecourse line has an intermediate station at the showgrounds which sees a lot of use, especially now at the time of writing while the Royal Melbourne Show is on. In 1983, the Geelong line received partial electrification to Werribee. Prior to electrification, there was still a distinct suburban service, but there was nothing stopping the service from continuing to Geelong. Werribee electrification became a hard restriction on this, and it was a wasted opportunity to not electrify to Geelong, because the entire line is double track and the current day Geelong line is the busiest V-line route, with Ballarat and Bendigo lines behind it. If they decided to electrify the entire Geelong line, it will bear a strong resemblance to the Central Coast and Newcastle line in New South Wales in terms of patronage. Newport had been served by the Geelong line after electrification, but this will come to an end in 2015 after the regional rail link opened, which saw the Geelong line diverted via 2 new stations at Wyndham Vale and Tarneit and joining the Ballarat line at Deer Park. This deviation was made to separate suburban and regional services. This had fully separated the Geelong line and the Ballarat line, and upgrades to the regional network have been continuing ever since the regional rail link opened. This affected passengers at Newport because they would now have to backtrack to Footscray to get a train instead of just having one right there. But the net benefit of the regional rail link was a positive, even if it slightly inconvenienced passengers at Newport. The video could end here, but excluding the part where I talk about the track layout and the part where I talk about improvements, but there's something massive and important about Newport and Newport only, and that is Newport Workshops. Newport Workshops is a massive facility where trains are built, stored, maintained and built again. Newport Workshops deserves its own video, but to keep it within the short time frame of this video, I'll only cover highlights. The Red Rattlers were built in Newport Workshops. Several regional carriages were built there, including the H-type carriages, which were only withdrawn in February of this year, and the N-type carriages, which are still in service. The Z-type carriages were refurbished in the early 2010s after the bogies started receiving cracks. The Siemens trains have been maintained there ever since they've entered service 20 years ago, and the past few years have seen the HCMT fleet being assembled at Newport Workshops, with the last sets only entering service a few months ago. Steam Rail Victoria and 707 operations also store their rolling stock in and around the workshops. Steamrail Victoria and 707 Operations are preservation groups that own a wide range of steam and diesel locomotives as well as carriages, and Steamrail Victoria also controls the Red Rattler, which is the electric and historic train that makes regular trips throughout the Melbourne Electric suburban network. Back to Newport Station though. Excluding Newport workshops and the track layout, there is a simple flat junction on the down end of the station where the Werribee line curves away from the Williamstown line. The station has 2 platforms and there are several sidings to the north end. This is because on certain days and at certain times, the Williamstown line runs as a shuttle from Newport, and these sidings are provided to keep terminating trains out of the way of the main line. As the video comes to an end, I will cover one more topic. What improvements can be made to Newport? The answer is not much. The junction at the down end can't be separated because it can't be elevated since Melbourne Road Bridge is in the way. There's no space for a dive under or additional platforms to separate it either, but there is one potential improvement that could be made. The proposed Melbourne Metro 2 is planned to have an underground connection at Newport Station. I will cover Melbourne Metro 2 in another video, but it's a proposed rail tunnel from Newport on the Werribee line to Clifton Hill on the Mernda line. The tunnel will provide way better time for travel to Southern Cross, and it will free up space on the main line for services to Laverton via Altona, but who knows if that will ever be built. Thanks guys for watching this video. More of this series will be coming soon, but in the meantime, thanks for watching.